All right. So, do you want to let's start? Yeah. Or do
Yeah,
you want to
absolutely.
wait for a little bit?
No, I think let's start, and
Yeah.
people come in, they come in. It's perfect. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Andrea, and I am a 3 principles practitioner. I've been a coach for a little over 10 years. And I was a seeker, looking for how I can get out of my own way, how I can, I thought I had blocks. So I wanted to uncover my blocks and, cut them with a string and whatever you do. And I studied quite a bit with Dr. Robert Holden, who is just delicious. He was the creator of the Happiness Project, which at the time was the only tested, scientifically proven method to increase your level of happiness. And he was pointing in the direction of not the principles. It's on the top off the top
Course
of
in
my head.
Miracles.
Thank you, Course in Miracles. Thank you, Del.
I studied with him too.
Yes, you sure did. And it was wonderful. I was very into the Enneagram and NLP and things like that, and it was all wonderful. But when I saw this understanding, which we are going to share with you today, it was freedom for me. I felt like I could finally exhale. I felt like I no longer had to fix myself. I felt like I knew that I had wisdom, but through seeing the principles, I knew I could trust it. And that was so life-changing for me and so magnificent, because I had been under the illusion that I was missing something, that there was like a missing piece, that there was something that I wasn't quite getting. So when I found this understanding, it really gripped me. And I couldn't explain why or what, but it was like I couldn't look away. When you uncover something and you just sort of can't take your eyes off of it and you don't know why, well, that's what happened for me. And today we're talking about moving away from our limited stories. And what was probably the biggest shift for me, well, there were 2 things. One was that I was convinced that I had a block, like my life was good, but I had a block. And when I saw that I was the one who was making up the personality, so I in turn was making up the block, I couldn't, it was like that fell away, because I was like, wait, I'm trying to fix a personality that I've made up. Huh? It no longer made sense to me. So that was so incredibly freeing. And the other block or what I thought that I had, was that I was under the illusion that I was stuck. And I was in a relationship that I felt as though, how could I possibly survive on my own? I was sort of, and I think a lot of women, people, just in general, have this experience in their life, whether it's with a job or with a spouse or a family. It could be with family, where you just feel as though you're trapped and there's no way out, because how could I on my own? And that was my story. And I could on my own. And all the things that looked scary to me, I realized when I blew the lid off of that, what looked real to me. So when I saw that I was capable of so much when I got out of my own way, everything shifted for me. And I will tell you, it's been gradual. I wasn't the person that hallelujah, and my whole life changed. But what's so beautiful is that the gradual shift has been so impactful. I'm a former approval addict, right? Where I was just searching for approval on the outside. It was so important to me that you liked me and that I did the right thing and that I was the good guy. That was incredibly important to me. And I thought that it was coming from love, but what I didn't realize was that it was coming from insecurity. And once I saw that I had made up that insecurity, that I was already whole, that there was nothing for me to fix, that I could just fall back into my true nature, which is already whole, all of those things fell away, because there's no oxygen for them. When you see that you're trying to fix something that you made up, there's no oxygen for it. So the more I fell back into my my essential truth, my natural truth, which is that I am okay and I am made of the same stuff that we're all made of, that I have this magnificent life force flowing through me, that's who I am at my core. When I really, really deeply saw that, I saw that I was making up fear. And once you see that you're making up fear, to put one step in front of the other just becomes the logical decision. So just in a brief nutshell, this understanding, which again we'll share, has absolutely shifted my life, where I'm no longer in fear of the world. I'm no longer in fear of relationships not going the way I think they should go. And I'm no longer at the mercy of other people's judgments or feelings, or I'm just okay with it all. And I even had an experience recently, which was really interesting, which I'll share with you very quickly. And Del knows this. My dad is getting to the point in his life where everything is a worry for him. So there've been a lot of like close calls recently with his health. And just the other day, first he was afraid of COVID, then he was afraid of the shot. If it's not one thing, he'll find something to worry about. That's really where he is at this point. So just the other day, I was talking to him on the phone. I call him every morning when I'm on my way to the gym. And he said to me, he was very upset because he had called his doctor. I can't remember which doctor, but he called his doctor and the doctor didn't call him back right away. And he felt very insulted and I'm not important. And he was just going into this whole big, long story. And I'm like, oh my God, Daddy, you're creating so much worry that, you're creating so much pain and sadness that doesn't need to be created. You have no idea why you didn't get a prompt return phone call. You don't know anything about what's going on at that office or with the doctor or his assistants. And he was just living in this very upset head, very, very upset head. And, I got off the phone with him and I felt upset. I will admit, I called my husband, who's also a coach, and I'm like, Lee, I need coaching. And I said, I can very clearly see that I'm just very caught up in my thinking right now, that my thinking is very messy. I'm having insecure thoughts. It feels really yucky. And I know that's all it is. I know I don't have to be afraid of it. I know I don't have to do anything about it. I know that my thoughts will settle and I'll come to a place of clarity. And if there's something to do, it will be obvious. And I still wanted to talk to somebody. So I went into the gym, and here's what was really funny. They put us into groups. So there were like 3 of us in a group, and there was one girl in the group. And for whatever reason, I have never really had a taste for her. And I caught myself thinking, oh, of course she's in my group today. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, look at me judging this woman innocently. Like, what am I judging her for? Right? Whatever I don't like about her has nothing to do with her. And I realized, oh my goodness, I can have compassion for my thinking. And I can laugh at this stuff that I've made up about somebody that I don't know. And it was like so freeing to see that all of this stuff, I still go up and down, I still have moods, but I see that it's coming from me. It has nothing to do with her. Even with my dad, I saw that my reaction to it was totally coming from me. Had nothing to do with my dad. So that's so freeing, because it takes other people off the hook, and it takes me off the hook for taking my low grade BS seriously, and knowing that I can't trust my thinking when I'm in a low mood, and knowing that I'm just sort of creating yuckiness for myself in the moment, and knowing that that's okay. So I kind of started to laugh at myself because I saw the innocence of my thinking, and I just saw that, well, this is where I am. And what was so funny was, once you catch yourself, it just, as a result of catching yourself, you sort of wake up again. You just wake yourself up again. So these are little things, but they're big things, because this is life. And sometimes these things that look little become big because we take them to crazy town and we get off the train and we set up camp there. But now that doesn't make any sense to me to do that anymore in my life. So that's just a little bit of what I wanted to share, and I appreciate you listening. Yeah. Del, I don't know if you can relate to anything that I've said.
I'm so sorry, I was on mute. No, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No, not relating at all. How we make up stories about other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so the title of this talk, well, sorry, first of all, I'm Del Adey-Jones, and I'm a 3 principles practitioner. And one of my specialties, not the only one, is working with people with codependency and low self-esteem and narcissistic abuse. And the reason that that is so close to my heart is because that's who I was for most of my life. I lived in this thought created bubble of an image of myself that or a story about myself that I had no idea that I had created. Yes, I definitely grew up in certain circumstances that impacted me growing up, but I had a story about myself that I was, first of all, I was illegitimate, and that meant that, in my innocent little young mind, that meant that I wasn't legitimate and everybody else in the world was. So there was something wrong with me. There was something different about me. I also had a situation when I was very young where I could see that my existence, well, the interpretation I made from it was seeing somebody in tears and in pain. And I felt that my just even existing had caused that person to be in that amount of pain. So I sort of blame myself for that too. So I had this really strong story that I was worthless, wasn't equal to other people, should never have been born. And I basically carried that story with me for, first half of my life. I mean, I would say that to some degree or another, that story played out until I was 50. And then in 2009, I first came across the understanding of the principles. And I didn't get really into it until like 6 years later in 2015, when I knew that there were more books to read. And it was actually this sort of shared understanding. When I came across it in 2009, I thought it was just one man's idea in this great book, but that was it. So, but it was life-changing for me. And it really had me start to understand that we experience life via our thinking. And so I used to think that all the thoughts in my head that said that I was less than, not good enough, and all the evidence that I had in my life to prove it, I thought that was so solid. That's just who I am. Is that there's evidence, look, and all that voice in my head is doing is telling me who I am. And when I came across the principles and realized that, oh, that's just a collection of thoughts. That's just like a personality created out of these thoughts that I've sort of just grabbed onto and strung together and called them me. And I've just gone through life with this me that I had constructed, and never thinking that that could be, blown apart, that wasn't real, that wasn't really who I was. So coming across this understanding was mind-blowing for me. In the past, I'd done a master's in spiritual psychology at this place called the University of Santa Monica. And we would sometimes say, I remember somebody saying to me once, oh, you're so stuck in your story. And I would hear that as, I'm living in the past. I'm living into it, I'm living I don't know, I didn't get what it meant. I just thought, oh, she means I'm stuck in my past. But what I see now is when I hear the words, you're living in your story, you're living in this self-created prison. I was for sure. I had created this prison of limitations. And when I came across the principles, it was like the walls just all plopped down, the prison walls just plopped down. And I was like, oh my God, that was just all thought created. It's like, when children play in like a dress up box and you can dress up as a princess one day or a fireman the next day or a cowboy or whatever it is. I had sort of put this outfit on. My outfit happened to be the waif. I was this little orphan girl. I wasn't the princess or anything. But it's like I had put this outfit on and then forgotten that it was dress up and that I could have access to any other outfit if I wanted to. And I just lived my life in this one outfit. And so I find that fascinating and liberating, that you can really, when you see what it is that we've done, this innocently creating this persona that can be literally pulled apart, and that we can grab onto any sort of new thoughts about ourselves constantly, because it's all playful, it's all just energy running through us, all these thoughts we have about ourselves. So now my thinking can be, I have room now to think, yeah, maybe I'm okay, or maybe I'm a writer, or maybe I'm a this, or maybe I'm a that. There's this new freshness and joy in that creative energy that is flowing through me constantly, that is constantly creating new stories. And I can have fun with those stories and live into them. And if they don't align, then I can just say, oh, I'm going to try something else now. But they're not solid. They're not impenetrable. They're just made of thought. And when you see that, it's just so incredibly liberating. And I just want to share one thing that I saw. I've been very, very busy this last year with COVID, and to the point where I'm actually feeling a little bit of burnout. But I also have a story that I saw so clearly through the other night, which was, my story is, I'm responsible, I'm reliable, I follow through on my commitments, I this, I that. And it was a story that I sort of liked about myself, until I've seen that it's become another prison. I have committed to so many things that I've actually crowded out my schedule to the point where I haven't left room for spontaneity. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, you created another story. It's a different story from the one I grew up with, but it's another story that has limitations on it. So so I'm going against the grain. I'm like not following through on some of my commitments. And it's really liberating, from somebody that's always been such a responsible person. So it's really interesting how we can have these sneaky stories that are just underlying. I mean, it was literally such a beautiful insight. I was like, oh, you have a story that says you can't say no. So anyway, so that was my latest story that I just busted myself on. So
It's incredible that even something like that, which we would label as, oh, I'm so proud of this trait that I have, but again, we're judging the right and wrongness of it.
mhm.
And that is so powerful to see that even that is made of thought, and we've made up a rule for ourselves, which, if it's not fun, it is a prison, you know? And it's so freeing to know that it's all okay, that it's okay to say no, that it's okay to create different scenarios for yourself based on how you're feeling. And I think, again, one of the biggest things that I've seen is that we do create these stories about how we think our life should be. I mean, my goodness, every time I think about what my story would be of how I think my life should be, that doesn't feel good, because that's coming from my judgments, from my ego. That's coming from a place that is not really looking to love me, but looking to judge me. And the more that, now I don't even go there. It's like I am in the present moment as best I can. There's times when I'm futurizing, and there's times when I'm thinking about stuff that happened that I don't like. But the majority of the time, I'm so okay with just the now. That is such a gift, because I didn't see, and it's so innocent, but I didn't see that I was spending so much time trying to get somewhere and
Mm.
so much time trying to accomplish things, that I was missing my life. I was missing the beauty in the everyday experience. And now, I mean, I probably sound so very annoying to my friends or to anybody that I'm kind of with, because every day I am so appreciative of where we live and how beautiful it is, and the weather, and that we get to be outside, and our little town. I love our little town. And I've been here for 11 years. I did not feel this way about my little town. I always liked it, but I didn't feel a part of it. And it's like, oh my goodness, this has been here for me this whole time, but I couldn't see it. You know, it's like when somebody tells you, oh my God, best dry cleaner ever, where? And you find out you've been driving past it every single day on your way to work for the past 20 years and you didn't notice it. That's what it's like. It's like you wake up to this magnificence that is right here when you stop judging it from past stories that you created from a personality that you made up.
Yeah. You know, I love what you're sharing, Andrea, and it's reminding me that, you know, we not only do we have a story about who we are, but we have a story about our preferences. You know, Andrea likes this, or Dell likes this, Dell doesn't like this. And we create these stories. And again, it's limited because we seek out what we think we like. And what I'm hearing you say, Andrea, which is so beautiful, is that, you know, you can get so lost in these stories that you're not seeing what's right there in front of you. And you might be surprised, you know, even so much as when people say something like, well, I have a sweet tooth, or I like savory as opposed to sweet. Well, you know what? You don't know. Sometimes there's always possibility for something new, always possibilities when we don't put those labels on ourselves or confine ourselves to being a certain type or having a certain preference. Or, you know, I'm thinking, as you were sharing, I'm thinking about, you know, I'm lucky enough to live in a community that I have loved for the last almost, gosh, trying to think now, yeah, just almost 30 years now. Oh, no, 27 years. And I love it here. But I can also see that I'm attached to staying here. I'm attached to, I will only be happy if I can stay here. Now, I don't know if that's really true, you know, that I might need to move. But when I stay in that story of, I will only be happy here, I'm limiting myself. And I'm not opening myself up to something new that could be so exciting and could be so much better than those last 27 years, even though I find that really hard to. But at least be equal to how happy I have been living in the community I live in now. So I love that you were pointing to that, Andrea, that we can just, you know, we have stories about what our future should look like, or stories of what our past should look like. I'm a futurizer. I don't spend too much time in the past. That's over and done with. I can't do that. But I find myself getting caught up in fantasies of the future and what it should look like, and what how I will be, like you said, if I obtain certain things, you know, I will be happier when, you know, it's all made up. That's another story that just takes you out of the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's that noticing that if we, and it's so innocent again, but if we tag on, I'll be happy when that happens, first of all, we're not present. And we're also putting a heck of a lot on that when. We're putting a lot of conditions on that when. And we're not seeing that even the when is made of thought. Even that is made of thought. That's been so freeing for me to see that. And it just gives room. It allows space for some sort of peace and enjoyment now. And even when it comes to, you know, our health, you know, I've found that instead of fighting if I'm not feeling well, the more I just allow myself to be where I am in acceptance, you know, I stop this stress that I'm creating for myself. And that's been really freeing to know that it's okay if I'm not feeling 100%. And I'll get stories in my head about my age. You know, I'll get like, oh, well, 10 years ago, I didn't feel that. I'll get all that stuff because we're sort of programmed to believe that. But I catch myself so quickly with it now. And I realize that even that's made up. You know, my dad, I know I keep bringing up my dad, but he's 91. and he's got so much thinking about it. And it's so funny because I was on the phone with his doctor's like right hand nurse yesterday, and she knows my dad really well because he's been going there for maybe 20 or 30 years already. And she said to me, you know, your dad's a really healthy guy, he just doesn't believe it. I'm like, I know, he's a really healthy guy, but he just doesn't believe it. We can be our own worst enemy. And it's, again, it's so innocent. I know I keep saying that, but it's so innocent. I get it. 91, it's got a connotation, it's got a story around it. But he's actually really, really well. He's his own worst enemy. And that's, we're our own worst enemy. You know, so much is available for us. And most of the time, if we're not feeling that, which is okay, it's because we're just not as in tune with our essence in the moment. You know, we're we're just a little out of touch with our essence because we're always okay. And what's so beautiful that Del and I always give a cheer for is that even when we're down, because we do this, you know, it's okay. I had a hard time, you know, my dad, it's a big thing for me. It feels big for me with my dad, right? I know that's made of thought too. But when I'm feeling down about it, I don't beat myself up for it. I don't try to change my thinking, because why would I try to change something that I'm giving meaning to? I'm just allowing it to flow through me. And when I feel low, it's okay. I don't have to be, that's another, if I would say another like really big aha for me, was that I don't have to be afraid of my low moods. You know, I don't have to, there's nothing wrong with it. It's part of my humanness. So I don't have to be afraid of feeling down. And that just takes the pressure off, because I also know that it's temporary. And it's okay to feel yuck, and I'm going to feel yuck. It's okay. You know, it's okay. It's part of our humanness. So that's been so freeing for me to not be afraid of that experience.
Yeah, no, huge. Absolutely. As you just shared that, just a few things were coming up for me. And I was thinking when you said, well, you know, he's got a story around being 91. And then I flashed on, hey, I got a story at 62. And then I'm thinking, hey, most people have stories about turning 21, for God's sake. I mean, we can create a story around any age about what that means. But the other thing you were mentioning, which I brought something up for me, was completely gone out of my mind now. What were you saying at the end of there, Andrea? You said something.
Oh, just that it's okay to feel down, that I don't have to be afraid of it, that it's part of our humanness. And that's so huge, that I don't have to be afraid of a low mood. It's like, oh, I'm in a low mood. It's temporary, and whatever, it's going to flow through me.
Absolutely.
I have on it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that you've just reminded me. I was terrified of depression. I had a big story around depression. Depression, you know, my mother suffered from depression for years, and it was very scary. She had, you know, she would be hospitalized and have electric shock treatment. So my story was, if you allow yourself to feel depressed, you're going to sink down and down and down, and you're going to get basically taken away. And so I fought that so much. I was this Pollyanna, just, you know, even like going, everything's fine, even when things weren't fine. Because I had this scary, scary story that, you know, this is what depression looked like. And again, like you said, when I came across the principles and I realized that, you know, there is no such thing as depression, as in this big solid thing that you get into and then get stuck in, that there are just low moods. And maybe, you know, you're in a bit of a low mood and your thinking's a little low and the energy's moving through you and you're having some depressive thoughts. And if you don't panic and try and control them or judge them or fear them, they just flow through you. Like Andrea was saying, they just flow through and move on. And you return to that beautiful innate well-being that's always there, that you will always bounce back up to. So again, it's just, there are so many areas looking in this direction where I see that I had, even another one that's just occurring to me. I was listening to Jan and Chip Chipman the other day talking about relationships, and we have a story about, not only about who we are, but who the people in our life are. And we create a story about them, and then we're not in the moment with them. We're not open to seeing that they are multifaceted. They're not just this personality that we have deemed who they are. And Chip was talking about when he was looking at Jan or something one day, and he realized, I don't know who she is, but in the most beautiful way. It wasn't like, I don't know who she is, don't know, I've been married for the last 30 years. It was more of a wonderment, of an absolute loosening up of this construct that he had created of who she was. And then when you do that and you see people fresh and new every second of the day, that's what keeps a relationship alive and exciting. Because it's not, because of course it's predictable when it's fitting into the way you're viewing them. Oh, they're this today, they're that today, they're that, because you've got this little sort of lens that you're looking through going, this is who they are. Well, take those glasses off for a minute. Be in the wonderment of who they are today, fresh and new. So not only does it free you up to be fresh and new every moment of every day, it allows other people to be as well. I just find that just so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. I love what you're saying. It's like we give ourselves a chance, and we give others a chance. Right.
Exactly.
Give other people a chance to show up. It's just so magnificent. Del, I go for a walk every morning, and there is this couple, and they're an older couple. I mean, they're probably, I don't know, they might be in their early 80s, and they hold hands every day. They are so cute. I can't even stand how cute they are. And every day when they take their walk, they're holding hands. It is so stinking cute. And that's possible for every single couple. It's just so possible. And Lee and I went for a walk this morning. I grabbed his hand. Like, I want to be like that couple. But, what's so beautiful is we just create rules around it. Like, oh, well, we've been together a while. Well, so what? So I love what you're bringing up about relationships. The more we see people with that wonderment of a child, that childlike wonderment, we give relationships a chance to be fresh and new. And what's so interesting is we don't have to tell the other person that we're doing it or explain to them, this is how it works, just by our energy shifting, because it does. When you see the world through wonder, your energy is just going to be a lot lighter. As a result, relationships shift. We don't have to do anything. They just kind of do. It's so beautiful. And I love that you brought that up, because there's so much potential in our relationships to see them fresh in the moment. Especially, Del, you and I have talked so much about family, and that's something even like I caught myself with my mom, because, now that my dad's taking these regular trips to the hospital, I'm not being funny, but he is, but he's doing well. He really is well. My mom's on her own a little bit more. And I honestly, it's like I'm falling in love with her again, just being with her in the moment, like silly little things, because my schedule's pretty full, but I'm like, well, just come with me, Mom, or just, come here and hang out while I'm working, just that beauty of seeing her fresh has been really, like I said to my husband, I was like, my mom, and I've known my mom's really cool, but like my mom is such a fabulous lady. And I've always known she's a fabulous lady, but she really is a fabulous lady. And it's been cool to just experience her in the moment. This understanding has just opened up so much for me. I worry less. It's not that I don't worry anymore, because sometimes I do, but that's the difference, is that I catch myself and I wake up to it. And that's priceless, because I used to spend so much time worrying that I was just running around in circles, and I didn't realize that I was doing it. It looked like that made sense.
Yeah. When you were talking about your mum, it sounded so great. And I was thinking about my mum who passed away a couple of years ago. And she had dementia for the last few years. Now, we can have a story about that too. Like it shouldn't you know, this is terrible, this is so sad, this shouldn't be like this. But, you know, for me, I just absolutely didn't have that sort of expectation she'd be who she had been, you know, earlier in my life. I was just in the moment again of that wonderment of discovering who she was becoming,
Mm.
without the fear of the story of like, this is sad, this is terrible, this shouldn't be happening. And I actually had a beautiful last couple of years with her as she was, you know, becoming more sort of dotty and forgetful and telling the same stories over and over
Mm-hmm.
again, whatever it
Yeah.
was. It was, I did not have this story of it shouldn't look like this. I was like, this is what it is. And I'm just going to enjoy it. And the same thing with being a mother, having children. How many people when my children were little would say to me, oh, enjoy it while they're young, you know, you'll never get this time back. And even then it struck me as sad that some parents seem to think that this was as good as it was going to get and you better like hang on to it. And I've always felt like I just want to be present for everything that's showing up. I don't want to sort of have an image of who my children are. Again, a story of who they are. I want to be completely present to who they are every second of every day as they show up fresh and new. And I can honestly say that I've never had that feeling of, oh gosh, I want them when they were little again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just love who they are. I love getting to know who they are as adults. You know, they're 24 and 28 now. But I'm just loving that and always have loved it. So yeah, I think, you know, it's so interesting how stories of how things should be and ought to be and who people are and who they ought to be can just limit us so much.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was wondering if we want to open it up to any
Sure.
questions, anybody have any reflections, anything they want to share, confessions of what your stories are. We'd love to hear those. Andrea and I could keep talking forever, but
Yes.
we'd love some fresh perspective, and even if you don't want to speak on camera, you can type something into the chat if it's
Yeah.
something you want to have clarity around or have us talk a bit more about.
Yes, please do. That's a great idea if you just want to put something in the chat. Dell and I do have the gift of gab, so it's not a problem if you don't. Dell, I see your kitty cat.
I know, she just woke up. She's like, I got something to share.
Yeah. Like, can I hop in on this? Oh my God, she is so cute.
No. Yeah, I see. I have a story around her. My story is I want to come back as my cats.
Yeah,
If
I
I
don't.
have to come back for another life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrea, you anything else coming up for you?
Trying to, you know, something funny that came up for me today, you know, around age, because I think sometimes we get in our heads about what we're capable of and that kind of thing. It was very funny. I spent some time with a friend this morning, and she's probably, well, she's at least half my age. And we went into a shop, and the woman said to me, "Oh, well, your daughter." And I was like, "Oh, she's not my daughter." And, you know, for a moment I was like, oh. And then I was like, so what? Like, who cares? You know? And I actually said, thank you. She's so beautiful. Thank you. You know? But it's funny, you know, you get in your head, because at least what I see happens is, you know, there comes a time in your life when suddenly you're like in a different category, you know, like we're involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and, you know, there's like a young people's group, which is the under 40 group, which, you know, I still think I'm in, which I'm clearly not. But I just noticed it's so funny. We have these made up stories about our age, about our capabilities, about, you know, what's appropriate in life. Lee and I have a lot of friends who are retiring, and we feel like we're just, you know, we're just getting things started. We're just moving along. And it's so interesting to, you know, I could have had a lot of thinking about that, you know, because I've been through, or at this point in my life, many different stages. Um, and it's interesting to see the freshness when we're just okay in the moment, when we let go of the judgments, Del, you and I have talked about, just as women, a lot of times we've got so much on us about how we look and our weight. And I used to have so much on my weight. I mean, it used to, again, we talk about creating a prison in your mind. I created a huge prison in my mind because I had so many rules around it. And when I saw that I'm okay as is, it was like, boom, I could suddenly enjoy going to the gym and enjoy my food and, enjoy the lifestyle, enjoy sweets if I wanted, or a glass of wine if I wanted. It was like all the rules, they disappeared because I saw how I had made them up. But what was so interesting was, because I am aware of presence, I didn't go the opposite. I'm not suddenly not healthy or not conscious. I am. However, I'm health conscious, but aware of what that really means, rather than the rules that past prior conditioning had on me. I hate to say had on me, because how can rules have something on me? But basically that I had made up. So that's been really, really big for me. I mean, even this morning, oh my God, we were cracking up. Lee and I go for a walk every morning, and on the weekends we stop at this wonderful coffee shop. And so we, you start to get to know the people that also go to the coffee shop at 7:30 on a Saturday morning. And so there's this one guy there, and suddenly pickleball, I don't know if pickleball's big where any of you are, but everybody seems to be playing pickleball. And it was really funny because he's like, yeah, pickleball is great for people over 50 because your joints, this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, we're in the category. Like, and it's just funny how, I just notice how we have stories. Again, we have stories and beliefs on things that we are making up. What does it truly matter how many years you've been on the planet, right? What does it truly matter? But we give that meaning. We make up, oh, by this age, I need to be here, or I need to have done this, I need to have accomplished that. We make all of that stuff up. And to see that even that is made of thought, whoa, that's freedom. And that's been really, really big for me. It's been coming up a lot recently. And I'm so grateful for this understanding, because it has taken so much pressure off of me. And I think I'm probably at least I hope, a lot more fun to be with now that I don't have a lot of stories swirling in my head about myself.
Absolutely.
So kind of was.
That was beautiful, Andrea. I see Carolyn unmuted herself. Do you have something to share, Carolyn?
Oh, I just did it, so that I was ready, ready to go.
Okay, great. Well, we're ready for you.
There's lots of things that like come up, and I think, and then like you carry on and I forget. But like particularly resonating with the age thing at the moment. I'm 50 this year, and then so straight away, that's a big story, isn't it? And people, it's not till November, and people are already kind of putting pressure on, going, oh, are you having a party? I'm like, I don't want a party. I'm not like, it's like, oh my God, it's ages off. You just like leave it alone.
Yeah.
And also I have well, it's not really a new job anymore. It's been over a year now, but I've been working from home that whole time because of COVID. So pretty much my whole team that I work with are all kind of in their 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm really experiencing sort of, some anxiety about having to go back into the office, and where do I fit in with this team, and how do I fit in? And so I'm definitely hearing the age stuff, but I mean, it's like, it's reinforced by society and other people, I think, as well, so much.
I agree. I must ask you, Carolyn, when is your birthday?
It's November the 5th.
Oh, that's so fun. Wait, somebody else just recently, their birthday is November 5th. I can't remember who it was, but mine's the 24th. That's why I asked. But and I had my big 50, and I had all kinds of thinking about it, and and all that stuff. But it was painless. I made it through, and I get it.
I'm not so bothered. myself. It almost feels like it's happening to someone else. It feels a bit surreal. I think I'm kind of like you've been saying, I don't really see myself in that category.
Yeah, me neither.
And I think I'm pretty fortunate not to really look it. And the thing that I don't want is when people find out, I go, oh my God, you don't look it, blah, blah, blah. And then this other whole conversation comes up. And it's like, oh, can we just leave it alone?
Yeah. I find it just such a funny conversation. I'm fortunately I've never had well, I do. I remember standing in a club when I was 18 in London, saying to my friend, there was a 29-year-old woman in the club, and I remember saying to my friend, I went, oh, shoot me if I'm in a club at 29. Oh my God. I mean, talk about sort of, I mean, just so I'm saying we can have thinking at any age. You know, I'm 62 now, and I look at people like Mavis Khan, and you know, I just interviewed somebody the other day who's well into his 80s, and oh my God, what an absolute zest for life, enthusiasm, health. I mean, he was incredible. And so you know, we can surround ourselves with stories of, oh God, it means we're sort of, you know, going to get decrepit, or we can see incredible people all around us. There was an artist called Beatrice Woods. She was a ceramicist, and she used to live up in Ojai, up in here in California. And she was still sitting at her wheel throwing pots at 100, 105. She died at 105. She was still doing her ceramics and everything. And I remember on her 100th birthday, somebody interviewed her and said, what do you credit for your long life and your creativity and everything? And she was like, dark chocolate and younger men. Well, her younger man was 90. So it was just, you just laugh. It's all relative, you know, it really is. It's fun. It's, you know, it really is. We can look at the same thing, and depending on our lens, you know, it can be, whoa, gosh, this is going to be scary, we're getting old. Or for me, I tend to sort of look at some of the older teachers, and, you know, Elsie Spittle and you know, all these teachers that are, you know, well into their 70s now, and it just lights me up, because I just see that I've just got years to do this. You know, because I also happen to come from a family that everybody lives till over 100. So it's, I've got a long career ahead of me. So I think, yeah, I've got at least.
That is fantastic.
I know. But again, I could look at that of, I'm going to be here for at least another 30 plus years. I could look at it as what I can get done in that and how great that is. Or I could look at it as, oh God, that is really scary. I'm going to, you know, so it's all made up, is what we keep saying. It's all made up. So if you're going to make up stuff, why not make up, you know, if you're going to make up shit, make up good shit, because, you know, because it is all made up.
Yeah.
And I know we can't control that first thought that comes through, but we do have the free will as to how much we add on to that thinking, how much meaning we make it, how solid we make it. But when it's that first thought that just floods through us, just let it be. It's another one of my favorite songs.
Yes, absolutely. And I think when we see the temporary nature, you know, of our states of mind, that they're always fluctuating, it's like, oh, I don't have to take the low state of mind so seriously, and I don't have to harp on thinking that doesn't serve me. I can still function in the world pretty good without letting things that don't serve me consume too much headspace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love, does anybody else, Pilar or Desi or Ilva, anybody else have anything they'd like to share? We'd love to hear from you. So anyway, so Andrea, do you want to fill in anybody about our 8-week program?
Yeah, yes.
Interested in participating?
Yes. So we have an 8-week program coming up. It starts this Thursday. It's Thursdays for the next 8 weeks. It's at 1 p.m. EST. 10 a.m. PST, and the GMT, I don't know off the top of my head.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thank you, Del. And it's a 75-minute session, and we will be going in depth in these principles, in this understanding that has created such freedom for Del and I. We're going to be, each week we'll have a different topic. So we talk about relationships one week, we talk about fear one week, we talk about grief, we talk about creativity, we talk about getting out of our own way. We talk about really deepening this understanding. I'm sorry, Del, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, we talk about, our connection to our inner wisdom, our GPS that guides us every second of the day. We talk about, what it is to have a busy mind, and how that affects, our decision making.
Yes, and even our health.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about resilience, that innate resilience that's within all of us. Talk about change, being comfortable in the unknown. So many of us, I always joke that, we pay so much money to be entertained. We go to movies, we read great books, and we're happy to go along for the ride. But for some reason, when it comes to our lives, we have this habit of wanting to know what the ending is, instead of just really being in the unfolding of the adventure of what it is to be alive. So, differentiating between that personal thinking, where we tend to spend a lot of time in the future or in the past, we, living more in that feeling of being guided by creativity, by wisdom, by mind. I mean, I'm thinking of Elsie's, mentored by mind, allowing mind to direct us, not this fear-based thinking.
Yeah, so much is available to us when we see where our experience is coming from, when we see that we're not at the mercy of the world. So much is available to us to create in the world, and just to be more present in the world, and to find that calling, that spice, to experience more of our own natural spice in life, and not be afraid of it. I put in the chat the link if you're interested in taking a peek at the program. We do have an early bird which ends today, so if that means something, you might want to take a peek at it. And it also, on the page, you'll see there's also an interview that Del did on her program about, so if you wanted to get more in depth about our 8-week, and there's also, each of the weeks are listed so you can see what the topics are. This is our 4th time, I think, doing this. So, yeah. And we've had many repeat people come back, because each session, even though the topics are the same, it's very, very different, because we sort of work on what's coming up with the group. So even though we do have a topic that we start with, we really go by the feel of the group and what's coming up, so we can address the direction that the group's going in. And it's just been wonderful. It's kind of really cool to just sit with a nice, very intimate group of women each week and explore all the stuff that we all go through.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, it's all very sort of relatable, what we're going through in our life, what we've seen. Thank you, Pilar. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's lovely to meet you. And we'd love you to join us if it feels like something you would like to participate in. It's thank you, Desi. Thank you so much. And so I think we are complete, unless anybody has anything they'd like to share, last minute questions, anything like that.
I would like to share.
Yes, please. It's lovely to hear from you.
Are you using something called the 3 principles?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know anything about it. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he recommended it. We were emailing each other, and I was telling him that I seem to, I am realizing that I have this pattern where I get into burnout. I get into burnout, and in and out. And every time I do it, it happens. It seems more compulsive. And every time I get into it, it scares me more, what effect it's having in my body and my mind. So he recommended the 3 principles. So I did look online yesterday very quickly, so yeah, I just wanted to share that. how I came, how I found you.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. And whoever your friend is, he's a very good friend.
Yes,
because
I would agree.
Looking in this direction, it's, we always say the 3 principles are not a prescription. They're not like a do this, or these are 3 rules to live by. What the 3 principles does is describe how we experience life as human beings, as spiritual beings have a human experience. It describes how we experience life. And with that understanding, we settle.
Yeah.
I mean, we absolutely stop living from this, as I said, this personal thinking that's full of fear and must and should and drive and got to accomplish and all of that stuff that leads to burnout. When we realize, that's just as my favorite 3 principles word, innocently. We innocently thought that this was, how we needed to show up in life. But when you see something deeper, which you do when you look deeper into these principles, it really truly is like living from a meditative place.
Yeah.
So we don't have to like go and meditate for an hour, then get back to our busy lives. We relax, we show up, we are so productive, and so, we're productive, but from a very different energy, from a really beautiful, calm, not to say we don't get caught up sometimes, like we share, we do, but we wake up to it and we go, oh, we just forgot, we got caught up a bit. And then we drop back into that beautiful feeling of just going with the flow of life.
Yeah.
And so many people find the principles, they find it through either having terrible low self-esteem or anxiety. Anxiety is a huge one, because this understanding, when we see it, we just can breathe and relax, and we're not in that sped up, anxious way of being in life.
And we also see that the world doesn't have to change.
Yeah.
And our circumstances don't have to change in order for us to experience a calmer, more peaceful state of mind. That's the beauty of it. So you can still function with all of the things that responsibilities in life. They're still on offer as things that you can take care of, but you take care of them from a space of, like Del was saying, a much more peaceful, meditative space. And what's so beautiful is it just takes the pressure off again of having the world be different in order for you to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you just said, Andrea. And it's for me, I became responsive as opposed to reactive. I was in survival mode most of my life. It's like whatever it was doing, there was like this drive, gotta conquer, gotta survive, gotta keep my head up, but it was in a reaction to the sort of the belief of what was causing my stress. Now I can respond. It's such a beautiful, that distinction right there, the freedom in responding as opposed to that knee-jerk reaction, have to feeling. So
I have a question about the 8-week sessions.
Yes.
Do you, apart from the 75 minutes, I think you said,
yes.
So do you do experiential exercises? Do you have to do homework in between? Like you have to do certain practices? I mean, how does that work?
That's what's on my website. I say no meditation mantras or affirmations required. When you see what we're pointing to, you'll have what we call insights, and it's like the aha moments. So you just keep, what we do, the format is very similar to this. Andrea and I will talk for a little bit, then we open it up for questions, sharing, things like that. That's it. There's nothing to do in between. Just show up just as yourself. There's nowhere else to get to or be other than where you are right now in the present moment.
Yeah.
And
just notice what we're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
You start to notice it in action in your life. So the homework would be, notice what comes up this week. We usually start the next session by saying, did anybody notice anything this week that they want to share?
Yeah. You don't have to do that. You don't have to share.
You
And
don't
you don't have to have seen anything either.
You don't have to share anything. And if you miss a session, everybody gets the recording. Yes. So you can do with it whatever you want to do with it. And you'll have email access to Del and I if anything comes up. If you want books to recommend or videos or something, we're always happy to do that. But it's really just noticing, like, oh, whoa, I see how, my states of mind shift, and I see the world differently based on my state of mind. It's just really an awareness. It's a waking up to what's already here. Yeah. It's just uncovering what's already available for all of us.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
It was lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad I found you. Thank you.
We are too. And whoever your friend is, thank him, because what a wonderful gift to give someone is the gift of freedom of mind. It's priceless.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, so can I just ask, how big do the groups tend to be? Because I've joined some sort of groups in the past and they've just been so massive.
Oh no, we limit ours.
Yeah.
It's what is our limit?
Our limit is 10.
It's 10.
Yes.
Yeah. It's I'm not keen on the great big groups either. I do another program, that's why I had to double check. My other program is limited to 10 as well.
Yeah.
I like, the small intimate groups. Everybody gets a chance to share. The feeling of coming together as an intimate group is beautiful. The trust and seeing. I love groups because often it's easier for us to see ourselves in other people than we sometimes can see ourselves. So when we say, maybe somebody else shares that they're a little bit stuck or something like that, you're like, oh, I do that too. I do that.
Yeah, we see that we're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. I love the group dynamic. So.
It's wonderful. And everybody has different schedules. And a lot of times we find that people work, so they catch the recordings. And if you can't make all the sessions, that's okay. If there's something that you would like to explore in that particular topic, you can email us and we will be sure to bring up your question and we'll answer it and you'll get the recording.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. So
yes, and emails will go out each week reminding you. If you're not able to join us, please email us with any questions. So you'll get reminders and you'll have lots of opportunity to get the information that you're looking for, whether you're able to physically be there or not. We will answer your question for sure. We'll explore it with the group.
Okay, and you think it's 6 p.m. GMT?
Yeah, it's definitely because it's 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's the 8 hour difference from the UK, so it's 6 p.m.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Time. Lovely. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really hope to see you on Thursday. If you're called to join us, we would love to have you there. And if not, just thank you so much for being here today. It's been lovely getting to meet you all, and have a wonderful week. And you want to say anything, Andrea?
No, just thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Take
have
care.
A lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Lovely weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.